Okay, so let us begin. Uh, First, let me introduce myself. I'm Grace Schessler, Women's League Vice President and Programming Chair, and I'm very excited to welcome everyone to this special evening. Unfortunately, Women's League International President Debbie Goldjitz can't be here with us tonight, but I'd like to thank her for bringing this opportunity to my attention and for allowing me to run with it. It is my pleasure now to welcome Women's League Executive Director, Rabbi Ellen Wollens-Fields, who will share a Devar Torah with us. Rabbi.
Erev Tov to everybody. And as if you were listening before, you could probably hear that we were discussing Women of the Wall at the Rosh Chodesh program last night. It was 7 a.m. East Israel time, which was midnight last night. I don't know about any of you, but I don't usually stay up till midnight. So I actually went to bed and set my alarm. And the davening was incredible, I have to say. It was the atmosphere at points that was a little difficult to handle. And one of my favorite verses in all of the liturgy for Rosh Chodesh is in Hallel, Zeh hayom asa Adonai nagila v'nismecha bo. So no matter what happens, I hope that we can always see that truly it is a time to rejoice, and to that means that this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and celebrate in it. And no matter what happens, it's a time of celebration, of seeing that when the women of the wall are there, as I think it was Eileen said, these are superheroes. These are women who are casting the way for the rest of us, just the way that the women who came before me. I said to someone today about Women's League, I said, was another female rabbi, I said, we are rabbis today because of my sisters in Women's League for Conservative Judaism. So I envision that one day my great-granddaughters will go to the Kotel and say, we're here because of all the women that came before us, that we can pray here in peace and quiet and not people heckling us. And it wasn't even just the women who were davening that were heckled. One of my daughter's friends who is trans was also heckled and picked on. And I gotta say, I saw a picture of them. Now I think it's her. Looked totally like a girl to me. And he was, or used to be when I met him when he had his bar mitzvah. And he was harassed. And he said, you know what? I don't actually mind because they realized that I'm not all boy, that I am a girl now. So it really, what's the nafkamina, the bottom line of learning about all of this, of going and experience Women of the Wall and making sure we're up early. And if anyone hasn't seen it, as Eileen said, it's on the Facebook page for Women of the Wall. I put it on my Facebook page. I forwarded it to Women's League's Facebook page. There are other places that we shared it. The bottom line is that, as Debbie, our president, says, there's chocolate, vanilla, and there's swirl. So there are many different ways to connect to God, no matter if you're davening with talit and tefillin, if you're as a woman, if you're davening with a tichel on your head, or if you're trans or binary, fluid. We're all Jews. We're all taking Torah to mean something to us, and that's the important part. That together, biyachad, we can make Torah living for us. And last night, we saw living Torah for all of us. So this morning, that's living Torah of how we can make it relevant to us today. And just the way we're about to make something, that's living Torah as well, because I bet that no two of our designs will look the same. So biyachad, we create Torah every single day. So it's wonderful to be with everybody, and a good chodesh to you.
Thank you, Rabbi. That was really meaningful. To continue our program, Rabbi Margie Seller, Educational Programs Coordinator at Women's League, will teach us why we enhance mitzvot with beauty. In other words, why we have all come together tonight to create beautiful Judaica. Rabbi Seller?
Thank you, Grace. Before I start, I just want to I think Karen and Isabel are both on. At one point in my talk, in the next few minutes, I'm going to call on Debbie Lempert to help me out. So if you can see where she is, so that when the time comes, you can you can spotlight her as well, so that she can shine when I call on her.
We will.
Okay, thank you. All right, so good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to be with you here and to speak about the mitzvah of Hidur Mitzvah. So what does this mean, Hidur Mitzvah? You probably know the word Hidur, or the root Hidur. You know it most from pre-Eitz Hadar. A goodly fruit is the way that phrase is translated, and that this is in connection to the holiday of Sukkot. And a pre-Eitz Hadar, a goodly fruit, we interpret as an etrog, which is what is unusual about an etrog. Not only does it have a beautiful, fragrant smell, an etrog never rots. I still have on my windowsill my etrog from Sukkot a year ago. It's all shriveled and hard, but it still smells fragrant. That is a beautiful fruit. So that the root Hey Daled Resh means to adorn or to make something beautiful. So where does this mitzvah of Hidur Mitzvah, where does this come from, this idea of beautifying or adorning our mitzvot? So according to the sages of the Talmud, it comes from the following verse from the book of Exodus. I'll read you the English. I'm going to work it backwards. I'm going to read you the English first, and then we'll go to the Hebrew. The Lord is my strength and song, and God has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will enshrine God, the God of my father, and I will exalt God. I did a little funky things with the translation there to make it appropriate for us. But in any event, that is the English. Let me now read to you the Hebrew. Ozi v'zimratya vayehi li lishua ze eli v'anvehu Elohei avi v'aromimenehu. And now is when I would like to call on, now that I have read that to you, now I want to call on Debbie Lempert.
Ozi v'zimratya vayehi li lishua. Ozi v'zimratya vayehi li lishua. Ve'ozi v'zimratya vayehi li lishua. Ozi v'zimratya vayehi li lishua. Ze'eli ve'anvehu Elohei avi ve'aromemenhu. Ze'eli ve'anvehu Elohei avi ve'aromenu. Ze'eli ve'anvehu Elohei avi aromenu. Ze'eli ve'anvehu Elohei avi aromenu.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Yasher kochechech. And I just want to mention, I sprung that on her at about 5 o'clock this afternoon. But I recognize that one thing that Hashem has not blessed me with is a beautiful singing voice, and Debbie has been blessed with a beautiful singing voice. So you see what we just did there? That is Hidur Mitzvah. That's beautifying a mitzvah. I read it to you. I read the English, I read the Hebrew. Debbie sang it. How much more beautiful did it sound when she sang it? That is Hidur Mitzvah. And that is the verse upon which our sages say that this idea of Hidur Mitzvah is based. So again, the translation The Lord is my strength and song. He has become my salvation. This is my God, and I will enshrine God, the God of my father, and I will exalt God. So in the Talmud, in Shabbat 133b, it says, so what is the source of this verse? It says the sages interpreted the word anvehu homiletically as na'eh, beauty, and interpreted it to mean that we should beautify ourselves before God in mitzvot. So even if you fulfill the mitzvah with something simple, like if you use a Maxwell House Haggadah, you've still fulfilled the mitzvah. But if you have a beautiful Haggadah and a beautiful Seder plate, it's made by Gary Rosenthal or someone else, and you have a beautiful matzah cover and all of those things, how much more meaningful does the Seder become to you? That's Hidur Mitzvah. And then it goes on in the Talmud to say, it lists several specific things in which we are to beautify the mitzvah. It says that we should beautify a sukkah for Hashem, a lulav, a shofar, tzitzit, and a Torah scroll. And the Torah scroll should be written in beautiful ink with a beautiful quill on beautiful parchment. But then it goes on. Abba Shaul says the word ve'anvehu should be interpreted as if it were written in two words, ani vehu, I and him. In other words, the I is each and every one of us, and the him, the he, in this case, is Hashem. So we interpret all of this in terms of our relationship to God, which is often compared to a marital relationship. So think about your relationship with a spouse or a significant other. How often do you say you want to sing this person's praises, that you want to make them happy, that you want to glorify them and say, this is my significant other. This is the person that I have chosen, but more importantly, this is the person who has chosen me, and therefore I want to sing their praises. So when we practice Hidur Mitzvah, it's the same thing with Hashem. We are saying, this is my God, and I want to sing my God's praises, and I want to glorify God. So when we buy a beautiful Hanukkah or a Seder plate or a matzah cover or a challah board or any of those things, and I have to say, I have, among other things, I have a Gary Rosenthal yad, which has a left hand on it, which is very special to me because most yads don't have a left hand on them. Find those things that are important to you. If they are family heirlooms, then you're bringing those who came before you into the observance of the mitzvah. If they were made by your children, like I have things that my kids made and now I'm showing them to my grandchildren. This is what your father made. This is what your mother made. How special is that, Lador Vador? That's what Hidur Mitzvah is all about. And so the idea behind Hidur Mitzvah, beautifying the mitzvah and making beautiful the relationship and celebrating the relationship between you and Hashem, so that all of us can say, Ze Eli v'anvehu, Elohai avi ve'aromemenu. I wish you all a happy evening. Enjoy your creativeness, whatever it is that you're going to make, and that's it.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. That was really beautiful, and I really enjoyed your words. And now it is my honor to introduce our special guest, world-renowned artist, Gary Rosenthal. Gary Rosenthal has been creating artwork and doing good with his studio since the early 1970s. Specializing in Judaica, he and his team combine mixed metals with brilliant fused glass inspired by the Jewish tradition that tells us it's a blessing, a mitzvah, as we just learned, to make beautiful, functional art. Work from his collections have been presented to presidents, celebrities, organizations, and individuals around the world. It can be seen in many fine galleries, private collections, and museum shops. Gary is well known in the Jewish community for his work through the Hedorah Mitzvah Project that allows people of all ages to create heirloom objects, raise funds for their causes, and bring communities together. Tonight, Women's League proudly welcomes Gary Rosenthal to our community. We invite him to share with us the importance of his glass ribbon project, yet another catalyst for using art to do good and promote healing in the face of adversity. First conceived as a way for the community to rally around loved ones fighting against breast cancer, individuals, groups, and organizations have participated in the Glass Ribbon Project as both a fundraiser and friend-raiser. When he was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, Glass Ribbon took on a new and very personal meaning for Gary Rosenthal. Seeing this as a chance to transform his situation into something that does good, Gary hopes to share the healing power of art to as many people as possible. And I now proudly present Gary Rosenthal.
Oh, I'm highlighted here.
Yes.
It's nice to see you all. Grace, thanks for that introduction. And rabbis, thanks for sharing your thoughts as well. Earlier. My wife is here with me. She's my technical director. So Martin Goldsmith is somewhere off to the side here, making sure I press the right buttons. But I wanted to introduce her since she's the brains behind the operation here. And I have to say, I've started off in the conservative movement. Martin and I were married at B'nai Israel over in Rockville, Maryland. Some of you have probably driven through the Washington area and seen B'nai Israel. I actually started much earlier there. My mother was by the temple one day when I was 8 or 9 years old. She heard the choir singing and she said, well, your brother has a good voice. Maybe they'll take you in the choir too. And I ended up joining the choir back when I was probably 9 or 10, and I've been involved in Judaism ever since then. Very much so, and so it's a pleasure to be able to. I feel so lucky that I was able to take my life and turn it into something where I was creating Jewish art the whole time. I'm going to see if I can share the screen now. Let me press the button here, and I've got a couple of pictures of some things I've done to show you. Maybe if I go over here now on that. Okay.
Here you go, and then
let's see. Now let's see if I've got. Okay.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, now you can see me welding. Does everybody have that picture?
Yes.
Perfect then. Thanks. That's me when I was just out of college. It's been a couple of years since then, but I think I'm working on a challah board back then. It's Judaica that you see in that picture behind the sparks flying, but that's really not where I got started. Let's see if I want to go to the pictures there.
Look over to the left-hand corner. You see?
Left-hand corner.
Of the screen, lower left.
I press here?
Yeah, press there. There you go.
I've done this before, but still every time I reinvent the wheel when I get to technology here.
Keeps moving forward.
That's right. It's job security for Marta here. But I didn't start off making Judaica. What I like to do is just to tell people how I got started making my artwork and how I grew into someone that just was almost exclusively doing Jewish art as time went on. But in the 1970s, I graduated from college and I decided that I was going to be an artist. I'm self-taught. And I just started going to craft shows. I started looking at art books and I started making things. And you can see from the picture right there of the sculpture, I've got a set of dancers and I have then also, some people on a swing set under a heart. Well, back in the 1970s, it was very hard to find Judaica. You could find a menorah that looked like it was made in Poland in 1650. You could get something out of brass that was green that was made in Israel, and it was something that so many of the sisterhoods were selling just menorahs and Shabbat candlesticks that were made in Israel. But I wanted to make things, and so I was busy making dancers. I was busy making scuba divers swimming through pieces of coral. I was doing all these sculptures that I just enjoy making things. And what I ended up doing was I would go to most of the JCCs, because even in the 1970s, the craft shows, you could go to a shopping mall or you could go to a Jewish community center. The Jewish community centers were always the best shows because the people would come there, they'd be investing in art. And so I was in Baltimore at the JCC probably in 1978 or 1979. And someone came up to me and said, I see your dancers, I see all these other things that you're doing. Could you make a menorah? And I looked at him like he was from another planet. Why would anybody want a menorah? Because this is 1970. And, things were different then. I already told you that, I grew up in a conservative home. I sang in the choir. Well, if you would have gone to my house in 1975, you would have found a mezuzah on my back door. You would have found a menorah. You would have found a Kiddush cup, and you would have found a Shabbat candlestick. Those last three items would have been sort of hidden in a closet someplace. And my father was afraid that if we lit a menorah and it showed through a window, somebody would put the rock through the window. It's hard to imagine today well, it's easier to imagine today than it was a couple of years ago that was what life is like. But, it was, when I got started, Judaica was not something that was, popularly being done. We were, just starting to become more expressive within the United States. And I just feel like I was in the right place at the right time. This gentleman came up to me, can you make a menorah? I came back to the show at the same Baltimore JCC in 6 months, because they do them twice a year. I had 6 menorahs with me. The first 6 pieces I sold at this show were my 6 menorahs. It was amazing. And they weren't even very good, but it didn't matter because the population was just so starved for something like that. So I'm self-taught. I'm busy making all of my Judaica. I'm doing really well with it. And then, let's see if I can press another button here. I decided that what I wanted to do as I started to make Judaica, since I was an artist, this was before I knew anything about the Dor Mitzvah, I decided that what I really wanted to do was to create a functional item that served the purpose, whether it was a Shabbat candlestick or something else, but I wanted to make it look like a piece of art. And in fact, what I really tried to do was to make things that you couldn't tell whether it was a piece of art or a piece of Judaica. So right here you see one of my favorite pieces that I've ever done, a Seder plate. I understand that some of you said you have my Seder plates. Thank you very much for the support. But here I have, it was the first vertical Seder plate that I had ever seen. The nice thing, and I'll go to the next picture there, is basically, is it Judaica or is it art, as I was saying? Here are 3 different menorahs that I've done. The nice thing about being a Jewish artist and having the opportunity to create is not only are you doing a Hiddur mitzvah, but the imagination is your limit. You're told that for Friday night you have to light 2 candles, and they don't tell you very many details about what the candle holder has to look like. In fact, they don't tell you at all. Just has to hold 2 candles. When it comes to a menorah, 8 of the candles have to be in the same line and 1 has to be higher. But beyond that, I can make a menorah that looks like it's got a violin playing with music, or I can make one that just looks like a piece of abstract art. And I always felt so lucky that, here was a way for me to get my creative juices out and earn a living. And I could do whatever I wanted. And the more interesting it was, the better as time went on. And so, here you can see I'm creating more work. I'm telling a story. With my work, I frequently like to be able to tell a story. So in the picture all the way to the left with me standing behind it, that's a Seder plate that now lives at American University Hillel. And it was for a community, because so you can put a lot of food in the glass trays there. But as you look at it, it's the parting of the Red Sea. You can see the waves in the middle, right where my hands are. You see the Ten Commandments are part of that story. You see the pyramid that has the foods listed on it. And so I would try and create something that people would look at and they would say, this is beautiful. It also tells a story. The sacrifice of Isaac that I have there is a shofar holder. That's at a synagogue lobby down in Florida. And basically it has the shofar is caught in a thorn bush, just like in the sacrifice of Isaac. On the piece of glass near the very top, that piece of red copper on the glass, that says Hineni, here I am. And so in a sculpture that's about probably 6.5 feet tall, it tells the whole story. And then, of course, a donor wall right there that we have up in Brookline, Mass. That's basically it's the 7 species and then a river that flows through it. And so what we're always trying to do is to create something that people look at and it's special to them. Rabbi, just as you were saying earlier about your left-handed yad, we made a left-handed yad probably 25 years ago because the only thing you could get back then was a right-handed yad. And I'm sure if you're left-handed, my wife is left-handed, you go through life thinking that no one cares about left-handed people. And so I only make a left-handed yad. Right-handed people never notice that it's a right-handed yad. It's a left-handed yad, of course. And left-handed people always think it's so cool. So thank you for calling it to my attention. But, I try and do with all of my work, I try and do a little bit of something in it that makes it special, that makes it mine and goes on from there. So let's see as we go forward here. I always saw my artwork, though I probably should have grown up to be a social worker, not an artist, because, I was always interested in trying to do good. And I tried very hard to take my sculpture business and treat it as a social venture and move from just where I was making pretty things. And in my particular case, they happened to be Hador Mitzvah pretty things that were used by families in religious ceremonies. But I tried to use it as a catalyst for doing something good. So whether it's with the Hador Mitzvah project or my Glass Ribbon project, as Grace said earlier, we've raised money to give to Sharsheret. We've given money to many different organizations as time goes on, and we've worked with very many people to create the artwork that's meaningful for them. I'm sure that most of you are familiar with Sharsheret, for instance, and I was very friendly with Rochelle as she founded it. And I think that I tell you the truth. Here it is. We're talking about my artwork. Many of you have my artwork. I want to thank all of you for inviting me into your home. I feel that on a Friday night, when somebody lights a candlestick in their home, they're inviting me in with them. And I just feel so personal that I can be part of that family experience. And I look at that Shabbat candlestick or whatever it is, and I say, it's just a piece of metal. It's just some glass. It's just stuff. Until somebody takes that candlestick and on a Friday night they say, Baruch atah Adonai, L'havlik ner shel Shabbat. And suddenly at that point in time, it goes from being just stuff to being something sacred. Well, when Rochelle, who started Sharsheret, was going through her treatment and, she hit stage 4, she came to me and said, Gary, what I'd like to do is I'm putting together things for my boys right now. And I'd like to make their wedding presents with you. And so the activity that you're going to be doing today, those of you that are making something, where you take the pieces of glass and you create something special, something that has you in it, something that has a little bit of me in it. You're following in the tradition of Rochelle and many other people, really all around the world, from Israel to Brooklyn to wherever, who basically feel the same thing, that the things that we touch, I used to tell people that my fingerprints stay on things that I make forever. And then I was up in Boston doing a mitzvah project, and the rabbi corrected me and said, Gary, it's not just your fingerprints, but it's your soul print. It goes into everything that you make. And so Rochelle came to me and she said, I'd like to make mezuzahs. I'm going to, after you finish them, send them back to me. I'm going to put them with gift cards, wedding present gift cards for my boys. And so basically, that mezuzah that she made that was a piece of her was a gift. And it was a very special gift. I like to think it's one of the most special gifts. And as I feel so lucky to be part of that, I hope that today, as you all are working on making glass, you think of not just Rochelle and but how, as you earlier said, something that something, whatever you make is going to end up something that you'll show to your grandchildren. I love it when people come by my shop or people come to a Hidor Mitzvah project. We create something and then we take pictures, because a little bit of us stays in everything, but it's nice to have the pictures as well. Let me move this along if I can. And so we'll get back to the glass rivet project in a little while. But people also ask me, what are the most interesting things we do? The dagger holder, that's a Jewish man that was in the Russian army during World War I. And his grandson had a picture and got his ceremonial dagger. And he came to me and said, Gary, this is really a family heirloom. Can you make something special for me? So we made the picture frame for his father and put the dagger in there. And then if you go to the right, we've got a trolley car tzedakah box. Well, after, just to show you the kind of programming that we did, because it wasn't just art we're doing, it's taking the art and making something special with it. After Hurricane Katrina, New Orleans was just really sort of wasted away. It was terrible what happened there. We worked with probably 20 communities around the country, and we were the first activity back in New Orleans for the Jewish community after Hurricane Katrina. We took over the Jewish Community Center, and we actually brought with us probably 1,000 menorahs and mezuzahs. We raised money, nationally for this. People from Colorado to New Jersey to California all made Hidor Mitzvah projects with, basically dreidels and menorahs. We went to the JCC. We basically put together a group of, we brought in a caterer from Nashville, and they had kosher hot dogs, Pepsi, and a potato latke for everybody that came to JCC that night. And everyone got as a gift a menorah and a menorah and a dreidel that was made by children and families around the country. Well, one of the folks in New Orleans then commissioned me to create a tzedakah box. It says tzedakah on top and has NOLA on the front, and he buys those and gives them away to people that are supportive of the community. So we were there. We put that together in New Orleans, and then shortly thereafter, one of the most interesting things, New Orleans, you think music, but we didn't have any music that night because all the artists had left New Orleans because of Katrina. And so we went back about 6 months later. We took over the, I think, Bailey Hall at Tulane University, and we had the first ever International Jewish Music Festival that basically my studio sponsored. And when I say first ever festival, it was the first ever New Orleans, Jewish music festival. And we had artists that we brought in from all over the world. And it was a party for the community of New Orleans, just to show them the Jewish community supported them. And we always looked at art. I always looked at art as a way to bring people together and, to get Tikkun Olam projects working along. So let's go to the next picture here. Here you can see we do lots of community events with our artwork. I described what we did with Hurricane Katrina, but on the right, you can see that, I was doing an Avon walk with folks, and, we were able to raise money, with our art for that. It's sort of, you have to, walk the walk, so to speak, as well as just talk the talk. So we were there for that a couple of years ago. And then the Fighting Fire with Fire, you can see that's more recent, that's 2018. And that was when there were lots of fires in California. And I got a call from a rabbi in California who said, look, our synagogue is pretty much closed down. Lots of families have lost their homes and things like that. What can you do? And, she said, it'd be really nice if we could do some sort of program where, we would use your art to do things. So what I did in that particular case is we did twinning projects where we worked with mainly in this particular case, mothers and daughter teams from all around the country. Some of you may have participated in this or one other project that we do, but people basically got together and at a social hall or at a synagogue, you'd have 30 to 50 to 100 women together that each would make two Shabbat candlesticks. And then we picked a particular Friday night, sometime that spring. I sent 150 or 200 Shabbat candlesticks back to California. And on a particular Friday evening, people in Atlanta, people in Pasadena, people in Boca Raton, people all over the country basically took out Shabbat candlesticks. They lit the one that they made, and someone in California was also lighting the one that they made. Because I really try and make that connection. I think it's not a physical connection, but I really do think that spiritual connection is there with the things that we do. And then right here, this is just more of, oh, you can see this is that New Orleans project again. You can see all the menorahs on the table to the left. Those were made all over the country and we gave them all away. Now, the glass ribbon project that Grace had mentioned earlier, that's me in my Sibley Hospital. I'm getting my infusion right there. That's my daughter and my best friend, that were there helping me make a piece of glass. And you can see, if it's large enough on your screen, you can see my daughter's holding onto a piece of glass and lots of little pieces of glass on the table there. For many years, probably for 20 years, ever since I talked with Rochelle Charcheret, we've been doing the Glass Ribbon Project and working with communities, mainly women all around the country. Well, when I was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, I said, let's do more, as we said. And what we decided to do was to try and use art to support those touched by cancer in some ways. And we do all of the kinds of programming that I talk about, where we would take we would make a Shabbat candlestick with a mother and daughter. We would help people make their presents for their children or whatever it may be. But the one thing that I focus the most on was something I call a strength stone. And you can see on the picture right there, there's a pile of just little bits of glass. Pink would be for breast cancer, purple would be for pancreatic cancer, just all different colors. And what we do is, it's as I said earlier, your fingerprints stay on wherever you make your soul prints and whatever you do. I ended up getting my Whipple surgery, and I'm doing pretty well. You can tell from seeing me on the TV screen right now. I'm at this point in time, I'm like the healthiest sick person you've ever met. So that's the good news there. And so basically what I decided that during COVID, people couldn't come visit me in the hospital. What I did was I made these little strength stones. I handed them out to all my friends, and I would be at the infusion center getting my chemo. And I get a text from a friend that would be holding onto a piece of glass in his hand. He'd send me a picture of it, and he'd say, this is basically, I'm there with you, even though I'm not there with you. I'm there with you. I'm thinking about you. And, I find that really meaningful, that basically this physical thing makes a connection. And so we decided, we created a 501c3, a nonprofit called the Glass Ribbon Project. And we're out there right now trying to get as much of this glass into people's hands who care about it as we can. And so we're talking with the National Breast Cancer Foundation. They're out of Texas, and they want to take 20,000 of these and put them into all of their kits. They unfortunately have 20,000 new diagnoses a year that they support. I work with. I'm talking with another group. I'm talking with lots of different groups, and we're just trying to do it, and we give it all away. We've raised money so that we can take the Glass Ribbon products, whatever they are, and give them to people that care. And so you sort of now know my whole story from beginning to sort of nearly the end here right now. But this is probably one of my last projects because I'm retiring. Some of you may have heard through the grapevine, but I basically sent a note out to people in January or February that we were going to be closing the shop so that I could do other things. And we received so many. I gave everybody one more chance to order, and we received so many orders. It was just extraordinary. We're still trying to fill orders from February, and we've been working at capacity since then. And hopefully by the end of the year, we'll catch up with everything. But the hope is that I'll be able to find someone else to carry on the glass ribbon project. And we're talking to a number of nonprofit organizations right now, Jewish Social Services, for instance, here in Washington, people that have operating companies that may be able to come in, and I would donate my whole business to someone if I can find the right person that can take advantage of it and do some good for the community. But I think this is probably a good time to talk about what you're going to do this evening to help the Hidor Mitzvah project. And I apologize if I've been talking for too long here, Grace. You could, you should have the hook to, take me out if I talk too much here. But basically, what we're going to do this evening is a program where we're going to take our glass bits, and each of you has, some of you have more than one, but those of you that are participating, you should have a little bag filled with bits of glass. And you should have a card, and on that card is a piece of glass. The piece of glass that's on the card is what you're going to build your mosaic on. And then as you build that mosaic, because, if you're on my screen and you know what I'm talking about, raise your hand. I just want to make sure I'm talking to people now. Yeah, okay, so we've got bags and everything. People are listening in, good. Basically, it's a really simple project. I do this program all the time with, families that have autism, and parents are always, the children have autism, the parents are always worried, can they do it or not? I say, look, it's a great project. There's no right, there's no wrong, there's no top, there's no bottom, there's no hurry, there's no way to do it wrong. And whatever you do is going to look great when it's done. Whether it's glass for a left-handed yad, or whether it's going to be a piece of glass for a menorah, whatever you do, by the time we get done with it at the shop, it's going to be your work and it's going to be beautiful. But what you do is basically supply everything except Elmer's glue to you. If you don't have your Elmer's glue tonight, you can do this tomorrow. It's easy stuff. And basically, you smear a little bit of the Elmer's glue on top of the piece of glass. And then you just build a mosaic, let it dry overnight, put it back in the box, and send it back to me. And then when it gets back to me, it'll have your address and everything else in it. We'll finish the piece and send it back to you. And at some point in time, probably within the next 2 months, I hope, we will, get things, get your work back to you, and you'll be able to, do your, you'll be able to invite me into your home for this Hanukkah, or maybe one Shabbos evening, and you'll remember this evening and you'll see the connection. And what I hope it does is I hope it makes you think of all the connections you have with all the people that, you somehow have done a Hidor Mitzvah with, whether it was listening to, our cantoral soloists this evening sing, the information of the song that we did earlier, or whoever it may be. We are connected through the things we do, and this is creating connection between me and you and everyone else, and I really am very appreciative of that. Grace, I am happy to answer. Well, let me just do, I'll answer any questions, but people can get started working on their Hidor Mitzvah projects now if you like, and we'll talk as you do it. I'll give you just a couple of tips, if I can do that, Grace, before you take over.
Yes, definitely do that. Do you want to stop sharing your screen?
Oh, yes. Sorry. That's good. I don't know how to do that. My wife has to do it. There, that's better now. Thank you. Okay. Basically, also, you haven't seen me. You've just been hearing my disemboweled voice this whole time.
No, we've seen, well, we can
You've
have
seen me
you,
too?
yeah, you've been on the side of the screen. It was a split
Cool.
screen between you and your presentation.
Yeah, this whole Zoom thing is still pretty new for me. I'm working at it, but
It's probably best if people write their questions in the chat while others do their project, and then I'll ask you the questions that I see in the chat.
Oh, good. So just a couple of tips as you put your as you want to put your glass mosaic together. Basically, you can use any colors any way you like. Don't stack it, but just after you've put the glue down, just lay the glass on top. If it sticks over the edge of the piece, don't worry about it, because when it melts, it'll pull itself in. If you have space between the pieces, don't worry, because what I'm going to do after I get the glass back is I take a spoonful of powdered glass. It looks like sugar, and I'm going to pour it in all the spaces that are on the glass. And so that way, when I melt it in the kiln at about 1450 degrees, the entire piece becomes a single piece of glass. Now, I know at least one of you, and maybe some others, may have gotten the piece of glass may have cracked in shipment to you. If that happens, don't worry about it. The wonderful thing about, fusing the glass together is that if you just put the pieces in place, put a piece of Scotch tape over it, and then just build on top of it, the tape will burn off, and all you're going to have left is beautiful glass by the time we're done. And that's really about it. So
Okay,
why don't I?
Yeah, I have questions. How thick or thin should the glue be applied?
Oh, well, the nice thing about Elmer's glue is it's almost all water. So if you put too much down and it's a little bit sloppy, don't worry, it's going to dry off. But I would just put a really light coating of glue on top.
And also, somebody mentioned that their pieces were mostly plain white. If they were not happy with their assortment, can they leave spaces perhaps, and can you fill it in with a pink or another color when it's returned?
Yeah, and I'm sorry that happens. My apologies. We take a big bin that's like a trash can full of glass, and it's possible that when I grab a handful out to put in the bag, in some case, it might be white. So if I did that to you, my apologies. On the card that you have, why don't you make a note that says pink free? That way all the space in between the white will be pink. And then if you want, take a black magic Sharpie and say, Gary, I'd like these 5 pieces that are white to be pink instead. And I'll swap them out for you. This is easy. We'll work on it together, partners.
Okay, thank you so much. And somebody
Sure.
asked, should we separate colors to make colorful shapes? I mean, I think even I would answer that is your vision. What do you say?
You got it. You're the artist.
Yeah, you're the artist.
You're the
And
artist. Make what you like.
my friend Terry Field, right in the middle of my screen, would say there's no wrong in art, right, Tara?
Yeah.
Okay, we have a hand up from Helene. Do you want to unmute yourself, or did you write it in the chat?
Oh, yes, I did write it, but I'll say what I wrote. Yes. Nice to
Hi,
meet
Elaine.
you. I have several of your pieces at home. The question I had was, are we putting only one layer of the glass chips on? We're not
Yes.
putting one on
There's no
top of the other. It's
stacking.
one layer.
Just a
Okay.
single layer. It'll come out
All right.
great.
And I read on the card, not to go too far out to the edge. So should we go only up to the first perimeter line or extend past that?
Oh, you can extend past it. If you have a piece of glass that you have to use because it fits right, you can do pretty much whatever you want. But I'd keep it pretty close in.
Okay.
If it goes out too far, no penalty.
Okay, and another question, Gary. Some of the glass pieces have a rough side of speckle color. Should that be face up, down, or doesn't matter?
If it's a piece of clear glass, it won't matter because the color will show through the clear. If it's a piece of white and it's color on one side, not the other. And some of the people that have a bag full, they think it was just white. If they turn the pieces over, they may find that there's actually some color on the bottom side of it.
Okay. Let's see, we did that one. Okay, regarding the edges, should we go to the very edge? Or we covered that, the first perimeter line. Try to stay within the line. Do you want them to include the extra pieces and send them back to you?
Oh, yeah, send everything back that you're not using because we'll reuse it again.
Great question. Thanks, Edna.
Yeah.
Okay, my glass detached from the paper, should I reattach it? And if so, with the Elmer's glue?
No, I'd use a piece of, if you have Scotch tape handy, before you send it back, just put a piece of Scotch tape or 2 across it to hold it down to the paper. If you want to use Elmer's, you can, but the tape is probably gonna work better.
Okay, so somebody asked, it turns out they have Elmer's wood glue. Is that going to be okay?
It'll probably be the most interesting one I've ever gotten back. Go for it.
Yeah,
It's really
give
hard
it a
to
shot.
mess this up.
Give it a shot. And
Yeah.
do we need to add bubble wrap when we send it back to you, or should we?
I would just wrap it up around, use newspaper, piece of bubble around it, just so it doesn't bounce around in the box on the way back.
Somebody said maybe saran wrap after it dries. Do you want them to? No.
No, you don't have to go to that trouble. Just wrap it in some newspaper, put it in the box and send it back.
Okay, here's a business proposition for you, Gary. Are you accepting applications to take over your business? I think that somebody should reach out privately.
Well, yeah, please have, if they're serious about it, please have them give me a call, and, I'd love to find a home for the business, but, come the end of this year, beginning of next year, I'm going to be on to different things. I may keep a sort of a very small operation going, but, I've got probably now, probably close to 15 employees. And, we're trying to figure out a way to keep it going, but without me being in charge of payroll and all that other stuff. So if somebody wants to buy my business and take it over, it's yours.
Okay, so contact me and I will give you Gary's
Sure.
email address.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so we're sending them. They're coming in, so I keep losing my place. It is
Well, how
somebody
long does it take?
asking, is somebody's understanding that you actually employ disabled person? Are they correct? And she's expressing her gratitude.
Well, I have, at this point in time, I have 2 men with autism, high functioning autistic men have been working for me probably close to 20 years. We've been the outstanding employer, both with Jewish Vocational Services and a group here in Washington called CSAC. Jewish Vocational Services, it was for work we did with Russian immigrants back in the years. I think I had probably at one point in time, I had 18, Russians working for me, right after, right as everything happened with Russian immigrants. And then, CSAC was recognizing us for our work with the autistic community. And so it's really, my business is really, it's probably not as well known. I make this artwork, I make this pretty stuff, but really it's just an excuse to do good. It's really, it's a combination, the way it's all worked out over the years. I've been very lucky to be able to run my business as a social venture where, not only do I have a business that runs that allows me to create jobs for other people, but at the same time, it allows us to do good, whether it's getting menorahs and a kosher hot dog for somebody in New Orleans, or whether it's getting a Shabbat candlestick to someone that lost their home, along with all their Judaica in California through a fire. So we've always been very engaged in things.
So everybody knows Razel. I don't know what any of us would do without Razel in the office. She says, in FYI, wood glue drives dark, like almost brownish. So if you're you might
won't matter.
It won't matter after. Okay, so
yeah, because the glue burns off probably at about 800 or 900 degrees, and we go up another 500 degrees. It's vaporized.
And is overnight drying time enough time for this type of glue? Can they send it back?
Plenty.
Plenty. Okay.
In the morning, just wrap it up, throw it back in the box, and send it to me.
Okay, awesome. And some of our members actually live close enough to drop it off at your shop in Rockville instead of mailing it. Would that be okay?
That would be lovely. And in fact, if they come by and they catch me in a good mood and I have the time, I'll be happy to, finish the piece while they're there. We'll put the print on together. It'll be my pleasure.
I might drive down from New York.
Well,
okay.
Let's not get carried away, but they need to they'll need to send me an email or something and call ahead just to confirm it. But I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Somebody asked if they can order from your website. So everybody should look in the chat. I was going to speak about it in just a little bit, but in addition to Gary being so generous with his time and sharing his story and such personal information, Gary and his team have created a virtual store for our Women's League members. So purchases made through this platform will be discounted 25%. I put the link to the shop in the chat just now. The password that you'll need to use to log in is there, as is the discount code that you will need for checkout. And if you don't get it all right now, that's okay. It's going to be in the Women's League week this coming week as well. We will continue to advertise it for this coming week.
That's great. And in addition to the 25% discount, we will also donate 25% to the Glass Ribbon Project, because this is how we fund the programs that we, things that we give away. we generally, take it out of our earnings, or we, since I've got the 501c3, we now also do, contributions and grants and things like that.
So I thank you on behalf of everyone, Gary. That's very generous of you, and I'm really happy with the shop now. It's
Oh,
really
good.
nice assortment of offerings.
Great.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Now, I
Is
can't,
there-
Grace, I just want to say one thing. Given how busy we are right now, I'm not going to be able to promise that orders
Okay.
that come in are going to get to you in time for Hanukkah. Just, the pieces that you're doing tonight, we're going to get that to you in time, but at least that's our intention. But the things that come
Right.
through the store, it'll be as we get to it.
Of course, and everybody should know that when they place their orders. And it is our hope, it's always been our hope that as a Women's League community, we will be able to come together to do our annual Hanukkah menorah lighting with our new menorah. Is that right? Menorahs?
Right? Yeah.
Menorahs. Okay. So, oh, thanks, Julia. I'm coming down to Maryland and I'm staying with Julia.
Good.
So let's see. Is there a deadline to return the projects? Well, I would say no,
Well,
but if you want it back in time.
that's what I would say. We'll probably need it 2 or 3 weeks minimum before we can get it back to you. So the sooner you get it back to us, the more likely we'll be able to get it back to you in time.
Okay, Corinne has a very specific question. I must have missed it earlier. If she has some small pieces, did Gary say I can use some small pieces from another piece of his that was
No.
broken?
Oh, wait.
So I guess
Another-
she has something that broke and she would like to introduce different color to her piece.
Oh, wait, is she talking about no, you can only use my glass. The glass that we use all has the same coefficient of expansion. And if you take a piece of strange glass and add
No,
it
it says
to
another piece of his that broke.
no,
Of yours.
I don't want to take a chance on it, because the glass changes, and we basically scientifically, the place where we get our glass from, they make sure that the glass is compatible. And so if you add something in there that's not compatible, the whole thing will shatter. So I'd rather just keep what's in the bag. Use what we have. Sorry.
It's okay. Someone ordered 3 pieces, one for herself and each of her daughters. Is there any way that they can put the names on them so when you send them back, they'll know whose is whose?
Well, I can put it, what we do is we put a sticker on each piece that goes back, and the sticker that comes back has a name on it. If you want to have 3 different names on the 3 different cards, whatever name is on the card is what we'll put on the sculpture itself, if that answers the question.
Oh, Rabbi Ellen wants to know if we can still buy kits if we have so many extra pieces of glass. Or
Oh, I'm sorry. The dogs were just barking. I couldn't quite hear.
we still,
What was the
can
question?
we still order the kits, but she has so much extra glass?
Oh, well, first off, that extra glass is my extra glass, and I'll ask her to send it back. But besides that, we potentially, it depends if the timing, but if somebody wants to do these kits, we send out these kits, single kits, to people that work with their grandkids.
Right.
For Thanksgiving, we'll sometimes send out 20 mezuzah kits to somebody's home where they'll work with all the kids and they'll all make mezuzahs. We potentially can do that, but it's a question of timing and if we can squeeze it in. So just have those people, contact me directly.
Okay. So no, you don't use all the glass. You're meant to have extra, so you didn't choose. So no, you don't use it. Okay. So I'm just saying she's super excited about her finished product. So
Good, me too.
Okay.
Well, how are we doing here? If there were any other questions, about my work or other things, you don't have to stick just to, making glass. But, it's been a pleasure here, and I'm still here for you. We're still talking. Just so go ahead.
There's a question actually regarding a repair on another piece of work that somebody has of yours. Do you do repair?
Have them get in touch with me directly. We fix things if they break.
Right. Okay. So thank you from Miriam. Thank you so much, Gary, for an enlightening and inspirational sharing of your story that marries
Good.
business, Jewish life, and art. Okay, yes,
Yeah.
you can use any of the glass that was given to you.
Yeah, even the blue glass. Use whatever you like.
Yeah, you see that, okay.
Yeah.
Is
And then the
anything-
extra Elmer's glue on your mosaic, don't worry about it, it'll dry.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to share something with you that that I thought about as I was writing my words tonight. Personal thanks to you, Gary. I would like to share that Gary and I started speaking back in January. It takes a long time to plan something. And when I first reached out to you, I was so intimidated. And I was like, wow, I'm speaking to a famous artist whose work has beautified my home for decades. But I have to say, it's been such a pleasure working with you. Your immediate enthusiasm for this program and your open, engaging manner quickly put me at ease. And yes, I did tell everybody I knew that I was in conversation with Gary Rosenthal. I thought it was really cool. So
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll all agree with me that Gary is an exceptional man. And just know that my appreciation for your talent has always been consistent, but now I add to it my admiration for your dedication to Hidor Mitzvah and Glass Ribbon projects. So I thank you, and it's been a wonderful, inspiring, creative night. Does anybody have other questions that they'd like to ask before maybe we let Gary go?
Well, I would just say one thing here, and that would be, let's do this again in a couple of years. How does that sound?
Oh, I would, Baruch Hashem, wish you
Yeah.
continued good health to you and everybody. We have Robin raising her hand. You can unmute.
So I just have to say that I feel like I'm 10 years old in art class today.
Good.
This is like the before. There's nothing else going on, but we're all hanging out, making something and fitting lovely pieces of glass together. And I do actually belong to the Bay Area Glass Institute. So I have
cool.
the utmost respect for people who, I live in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have utmost respect for the fact that you lose probably 30% of what you fire with the annealing and things like that.
Yeah.
And I don't think people realize that. And if anybody gets out to California, and Gary, I hope you consider doing this, there is a juried show every year in July. This year it was just a couple of weeks ago, called the Palo Alto Clay and Glass Festival. And I do see some of your things that other people are jet going over my house. Beauty of in the Bay Area. So anyway, just thank you. This has been so fun, and I'm almost finished putting all my pieces together, and just the relaxation that I've gotten from this, and the Zen feeling of community and doing something fun and Jewish. I just can't thank all of you enough.
Well, all good. And I look forward to getting all your glass back. And, I'll handle all of it myself. So my fingerprints will be on your pieces by the time they come back.
We have a
And,
question from Andrea Weinberger.
Sure.
Hi, Gary, it's not really a question. I just wanted to share with everybody. First of all, thank you to Women's League for putting together this amazing program and the Devar Torah and the beautiful chanting. But Gary, I just want you to know on a personal note that sharing your story of pancreatic cancer is so touching to me in doing this project, because my mother and Zadie both passed away from pancreatic cancer. And I feel like these pieces are going to now connect me to them and my children. And I'm forever grateful to you for that.
Well, likewise. Thank you.
Gary, do you want to just say how people can participate and order the healing stones through the?
Oh, if you go to the Glass Ribbon website, it's www.glassribbon.org. You can just go to that website and you'll see that there are ways to get the strength stones from there, ways to make contributions as you all like. And so that would be a big thank you to support it. We would basically use that money to buy things that we give away. That's what we're doing with it. Strength stones and other things. Okay, are we good to go, you think?
I think I don't see any more hand raised. all the screens, but unless you're using oh, Marjorie, it's easier if you use the hand up. I can't see all the screens. Marjorie, do you have a question? You're muted.
Now I'm not. In the chat, someone else asked, and I repeated, what is the drop dead date on the coupon, the 25% off?
Oh, a couple of weeks, I guess.
Just wondering.
Yeah, me too. You're the first ones that we've ever done this with. So, it's like a test, but, certainly got a couple of weeks.
And I also just want to say my house is loaded with your stuff. And now I am filling my son's and his new wife's home.
Well, all I can say is thank you very much.
You've shipped stuff for me to him.
Well, it's people like you that have made the Gary Rosenthal collection successful. And Paula, by the way, I appreciate your screen background with my purple mezuzah. Thank you very much for that.
I shared the website now in the chat with everybody because some people had asked me. Okay.
Good deal.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go down and have dinner now, but this has been a pleasure.
Thank you
I'll take
so
care.
much.
And like I say, in a couple more years, do it again.